I sit back on this couch before I do presentations and I meditate. And as I opened my eyes to do the presentation, I was blind. I had gone blind. And the light was so bright, I couldn't see anything. And I called in Lee and I called in Reverend Kathleen, and I let them know I couldn't see. I was blind and we'd have to postpone what I was about to do, which Lee did. And the light was so brilliant. And then when I looked at Reverend Kathleen McNamara and I looked at Lee, I could see a fountain of light that was moving from their being. And I realized I was looking at them, that they were not the body. They were actually the light. I became keenly aware that when we read scripturally that we are the light that lights up every man and every woman that comes into the world, the same light that was found in Jesus the Christ, that's not metaphorical, it's not happy talk. It is absolutely a truth. So as Sharon is saying in this song, that we are the light, that is a truth of our being. And each of you are on an adventure, to localize the cosmic celebration that is occurring throughout the entire cosmos and to come into harmony with the awareness that you are this light that is never dimmed by circumstances or situations. This adventure that we are all on is an adventure of remembering our pre-incarnational choices that we made before we took an incarnation, things that we said to us to be here for such a time as this, that we will allow for our light to so shine before men and women, so shine before individuals on this planet, that when they would see us or feel us or hear about us or feel the vibration of what we are bringing, they would know that they were in the presence of God Almighty, God all beauty, God all joy, and that there would be a wave of blessing and a wake of possibilities in front and behind us. We're on an adventure, you see. Now, as I hearken back to over 35 years ago, when we were on the adventure of beginning the Agape International Spiritual Center, I'll always remember this. Reverend Joan and a number of us were at the Asilomar Conference Grounds, and there was, they had the regular conference that they would have on a yearly basis. And I remember standing up on this high cliff. A friend of mine came up to me and he spoke to me and he said, listen, you're about to start a spiritual community in a couple of weeks. He said, you quit your job. You have 2 children and a wife. You're really doing this. Huh? He couldn't fathom that I was doing this. And I said, yes, I am. He said, oh my God, I'm praying for you. I'm gonna be with you, but I couldn't do it. And I said, no, I have no choice. I have no choice but to do this. The next person that came to talk to me was Reverend Joan Stedman, not a reverend at the time, not even a practitioner at the time. Maybe she was a practitioner at the time. And she came up and she was buoyant. She had this big happy face and smiling. And she said, we're getting ready to start a community. We're going to touch thousands of people. And she began to describe the adventure we were about to go on. And therein lies the 2 different voices that were going on in my head at that particular time. One represented, oh my God, what are you about to get into? You don't have a job. You've got mouths to feed. You've got rent to pay. And you're about to leap off into this thing. You don't even know if it's going to succeed or not. And then Reverend Joan comes up and she represents the part of me that was saying, we're on an adventure of infinite possibility. We're going to leap up out here and open ourselves up to the possibility of all needs met to fulfill ourselves with greatness beyond our wildest imaginings. And so here we are, almost 35 years later. Reverend Joan is refired from one community, refired from another community that she was helping to establish. And here we are today with a board of trustees, practitioners, ministers, open and receptive to remember their pre-incarnational choices for such a time as this, holding on to the space that each and every one of us, as previously been mentioned, that we are a state of consciousness for such a time as this. In other words, the world of phenomena is swirling. For such a time as this, in other words, fear is at an all-time high. For such a time as this, confusion is running amok. For such a time as this, people have abdicated their own inner authority and have become subject to fear, manipulation in ways that we can't even begin to understand. So for such a time as this, Agape Bay Area is rising up and saying that there are principles in the universe. Not merely personalities, not people, but there are principles in the universe. And if one practices these principles, one will come to a level of conviction, and then that conviction will be the only authority that an individual will live under. Did you hear what I just said? That the only conviction, the only authority you are to ever follow is the only authority is your own conviction of that which is real by practicing spiritual principles. And so, in other words, what I'm saying tonight is that you are to never put a wishbone, a spiritual wishbone where a spiritual backbone should be. You're not wishing and hoping that things get better in the world. You're not wishing and hoping that things turn out okay. You're not wishing and hoping that right action occurs. No. You're not putting a spiritual wishbone where a spiritual backbone should be. And the spiritual backbone is an intentionality that you lived with. You are intending to be an energetic space holder for the presence of God to come through in ways that take you beyond the imaginal realm and make you smack dab in the awareness of your oneness with God. A commitment that becomes so strong that even on your worst days when you don't feel like it, you get up and do the work anyway. As a matter of fact, those particular moments are oftentimes moments in which you are sloughing off the toxicity of the world, busting a fever, so to speak, so that with intention and commitment, your spiritual backbone becomes so strong that you become aware that you chose to be right here at this time in human history. This is our moment. You see, it's our moment. It's our moment. Now, why do I say that? Because there are moments in history where individuals who are practicing spiritual principle can make an indelible imprint in consciousness. And those moments generally are moments of chaos, generally are moments of fear, are moments where individuals, where the ego has lost control. Moments in which people's plans are going astray. Think back in your own life, and you become aware of your greatest growth oftentimes came from moments where you didn't know exactly what you were going to do. Your back was up against the proverbial wall. And out of such a moment, there emerged a voice, a vision, a possibility. And then through your spiritual work, whether you were knocked down to your knees or whether you were lifted by vision, from that moment of chaos came a moment of an emergence of something you didn't even dare to imagine in your darkest moments. And it became, and you look back at your life and you'll say, if it wasn't for that moment, I would not be who I am today. If it wasn't for that moment of confusion, that moment of seeming loss, that moment of seeming hurt, whatever the case may be, I would not have the spiritual fortitude and spiritual backbone to do what I'm doing today. The world is in such a crisis right now. Now, keep in mind, as I've been teaching over the years, the world and the planet are not the same thing. The planet is Mother Earth, it's Gaia, rivers, oceans, rainforests, trees, earth, mountains, valleys. That's the earth, and she's alive. She's alive. And then there's the world. The world is simply the collective agreement of individuals' opinions and points of view that bring about worldviews, you see, in the world. And so we, for such a time as this, we have come to literally not save the world, but to serve that which is emerging. We don't want to save the world. We don't want to save the world of bigotry and homophobia. We don't want to save the world of fear. We don't want to save the world of manipulation. We don't want to save the world of greed. We don't save the world in which celebrity is on the throne and wisdom is put to the side. We don't want to save that world. We have come to serve the emerging paradigm in which love and wisdom and discernment are placed back upon the throne, the emerging world of infinite possibility. And this is what individual practitioners, and you all are practitioners tonight, begin to see. And so the song said, it's time to celebrate. Now, that's how we enter into that world. We enter into the gates with praise and thanksgiving. That's how we enter into that, into the vision that has been spoken about tonight. We enter into it with a deep sense of celebration that the race has already been won. The gift has already been given. The Spirit of God is already given itself everywhere in its fulfillment, in its fullness, I should say. We enter into that space. Now, here's the deal. You are walking in this awareness during a time in which people have lost their sense of sovereignty and their sense of inner authority. And so you, as a community, have to stand so strong in what I described earlier in this talk, that you are the light. That light that lights up every man and every woman that comes into the world. You have to stand in this. You have to stand in this. And then you'll be part of the great fellowship that will say, there was a time in which things were so chaotic. You know, that's a real word, in which the chaos, the order is rising through the chaos. But there was a community and an evolutionary collaboration of communities that stood fast in principle. One God, one power, one presence, one life. Stood fast in principles, inseparable from the invisible and indivisible presence that's everywhere present. That stood in principle. Everything we can want and hope for and desire, we already have. Stood in principle. The presence of God is always broadcasting its name and its nature everywhere, because it's omnipresence, it's omniscient, it's omniactive, it's omni-every. Stood in that frequency and allowed their own individual lives to be a grand experiment for health and harmony and well-being and prosperity and generosity and wellness and well-being. Yes, there's all manner of experiments going on the planet, but you are experimenting with God. Joan may remember this. When we were visioning for Agape International, one of the things that we said was, we want to so practice these principles that we could say they either work or don't work. That if they don't work, we go out and be plumbers, because we know there are principles to plumbing. We know that we can go be electricians because there's principles to electricity. You know, we can be mechanics because we know there's principles in putting together a motor. We wanted to so go into the principles of the law of mind and action. Reverend Eunice remembers this. Reverend Coco remembers this. There are laws of mind and action, and there's a deep surrender that takes place when you surrender your life to God. We wanted to go so deep into that we could say unequivocally that this is real. It's not just a figment of somebody's imagination. And if it doesn't work, we can wash our hands up and say, hey, we're all going to go be mechanics, electricians, and plumbers, because we know that works, you see. And so here we are today, a community of lovers of God and lovers of humanity. Now, this is the beautiful thing about this time. First of all, one with God is a majority. Actually, one with God is unanimous, because there's nothing outside of God. Secondly, the highest frequency always wins. Love always wins. Peace always wins. That which is real always supersedes and wins or remains after everything else has dissolved. So small groups of people that are able to have a coherence with the fundamental ideation of oneness and unity, way more powerful than hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are lost in fear and worry and doubt, hate, separation. So individuals may look out with a filter over their eyes and see the world as is described by mass media. If it bleeds, it leads. Lowest common denominator of the human experience, always bringing it to our doorsteps. But communities such as this, as we hunker down in the awareness of our oneness with God, even if someone doesn't even walk into the community, that vibration is not kept inside the walls of the community. That vibration is not kept within the Zoom room. That frequency emanates. It's non-local. It emanates through the entire planet. And you will be the history makers. You will be the ones that so steadfastly practice these principles that when everything seemed to be going topsy-turvy, you were the ones that allowed for the divine idea, heaven on earth, the divine idea, beloved community, the divine idea, being descended masters, came into manifestation. This is your role at this time in human history. And as I was saying earlier, the beautiful thing about it is small, and I say small groups of people, I'm talking about there are millions of people who are unconscious, and there are millions waking up. Small groups of people scattered around the world are holding the frequency and are becoming the place by which the next great immersion of spirituality is happening. That would be you. That would be me. That would be we, right here and right now. And so as we are taking a part of a magnificent installation, formal, informal, mystical marriage, we're saying yes to being shocked and surprised as to the good that begins to flow in our life. Because if it, as Joel Goldsmith likes to say about transformation, if it doesn't shock you, it's not transformation, because it's always outside of your present paradigm. So as good as you are catching the vision, as good as you are describing what you would like to see, as you're doing your inner work, you're going to be shocked about parts of you that are so beautiful and so wonderful. I've seen it. I've seen the fountain of light. You're going to be shocked and surprised at the beauty that's within you. I've seen it. It's real. It's not metaphor. It's not sweet poetry. It's not just beautiful prose. Your life is divine. And so as you are removing the obscurations of the mind, you will come to an understanding that is not merely mind over matter. It's mind over chatter. The chatter of the small self saying, there's not enough. I'm not good enough. It's too hard. I'm not worthy. It's too much work. Oh my God. And that mind over chatter will allow you to hear the voice of the genuine, as Dr. Howard Thurman loved to call it, the voice of the genuine, he said. And he went on to say that you are to so work to hear the voice of the genuine within you, that if you do not find the voice of the genuine, you will dangle on the strings of a puppeteer that will manipulate and run your life. And if you hear the voice of the genuine and do not surrender to it, for the rest of your life, you'll be in misery. Somewhere along the line, you have all heard the voice of the genuine within you. You have to release yourself to it. Come what may. Celebrate yourself into it. Come what may. Sing yourself into it. Come what may. Dance your way into it. Come what may. Pray your way into it. Come what may. Give your way into it. Come what may. Until you become a large speaker, transponder for the voice of the genuine. The light that lights up every man and every woman that comes into the world. I want you to feel this with me right now. If you have heard the songs, if you've heard the reading, if you've heard the prayer, if you have heard the mission statement, as you have heard the installation, any one of those things have touched your heart, I want you to feel the impress on it right now. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep inhalation and hold it at the apex. Just sustain the breath for a moment, but feel the impact of this evening together. And feel your own vow that you have taken for your own life of excellence. Release the sound of ah. And get a sense that your entire nervous system is now being recalibrated from the world of effects, appearances, circumstances, and situations to the planetary frequency of excellence that Mother Earth is now holding and that the Christ within you is now vibrating. So that you now have a secret. You have a smile on your face. And that secret is you already know how everything's going to turn out. You already know it. Life always wins. Love always wins. Peace wins. Joy wins. Abundance wins. And though malicious hypnotism might be afoot right now, nefarious deeds may be behind the scene to control you, life wins. Your role? To become so in tune with life and love and beauty that it becomes your shield and buckler, that you live in the secret place of the Most High under the shadow of the Almighty. No hurt, harm, nor danger can come nigh your dwelling place because you're making God your habitation. Power of discernment takes over your vision. You're able to see, not with eyes, but with consciousness. And you walk in integrity with your soul. You may have heard me say this before, but if you're not in joy, you're not in integrity with your soul, because your soul knows life wins. Life wins. And so we celebrate tonight. We come into the frequency of high celebration. Another time, another moment, close the outer eyes. Become aware that what you're invited to see, you cannot see with your eyes. Become aware that what you are invited to hear, you can't hear with your ears. Your eyes and your ears are prosthetics of spiritual faculties that allow you to navigate in 3D. But the presence of God and its sacred essence are invisible and formless. So you're invited to see the invisible and to hear the inaudible with consciousness. With that as a reminder, once again, take a deep breath. Sustain the breath at the apex. Feel anything that has hit your heart this evening, from the sacred songs, sacred readings, the sacred intentions, the sacred installations, the sacred history, the sacred. Feel it, feel it, feel it. Magnify it. Breathe out. You are being baptized in the Spirit of God. Your nervous system is relaxing and releasing itself to an order that we all depend on, and that now orders our steps. This is what I know for sure. Feel into that. This feeling and this insight is you remembering your pre-incarnational choice to be here. You didn't get it from your mama, your daddy. You didn't get it from the world of effects. You didn't get it from past religions, colleges. It's coming directly from your soul faculty. And the only authority is your conviction of truth that you have committed yourself tonight to practice, to bring heaven to earth and to make earth heaven. Will you do that? Will you say yes to that? Will you rise in that awareness? If so, one with God is unanimous. This community is holding the unanimous consciousness of God is all that there is. And everything that is a manifestation of the only thing that is, which is the presence that is never an absence of God. I feel it in my bones, which are the very tuning forks of my body temple. Feel it with me. Let's move into prayer together. As we continue to give thanks, I embrace a continuation of the prayer that was offered by our Reverend Eunice Chalfant. As we come to a great awareness of there's so much to be grateful for and thankful for, that we cannot help to be grateful with every breath that we take, and that the recognition factor of the presence of God is so high that's all that we see, that's all that we be. And in that all that we be, we're one with His presence. It is from this awareness of divine oneness that the word is spoken, which is a vibrational frequency of divine order and a perfect spiritual ideation. I speak the word for each and every one of us that we may be free today, that something wonderful is happening, and this community is carrying the frequency and the vibration of all needs met, and that everything is working together for its good. I feel it in my bones now. I bless all of everything that has happened this evening, to the tearing downs of the seeming strongholds of negativity, that the full flowering of infinite spirit may reveal itself as a dynamic peace, a deep sense of beauty, a dynamic sense of well-being, and that everything is working together for our individual and our collective good. Something wonderful is happening. Something wonderful is happening. Something wonderful is happening. Feel that. I give thanks for this and allow it to be so. All needs met. And so it is. Amen. Remember, we are not on a religious quest. We're on a quest for freedom and liberation from limited paradigms, limited thinking, superstitious thoughts. It's not a religious quest. It's a quest for freedom that's intrinsic to our being.